Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of Coffee with Ashish Season 2. And today we have got a very special guest with us, Mr. KD Singh, who's founder and president of TravelBullz.com. And I think I was reading about you, KDG, and I think it's a really inspiring story. And I think a lot of youngsters like myself can take a lot of inspiration and be motivated to see your journey and how you've really grown over the years, this organization. And I think, just for everybody's reference, KD, he's popularly known as KD, but his full name is Kavardeep Singh. He's the founder and president of TravelBullz, but he started his journey as an entrepreneur at a young age of 18, just after the school, with a cake shop outlet. And he had the vision at that point in time to open 100 such outlets in Delhi. And then overall, he got into corporate journey, worked in various sectors like FMCG, logistics, telecom, and then finally moved into to travel domain, and that too B2B travel, which we all know has been historically and traditionally very, or in fact, significantly chaotic, so to say. So I think he has played a major role in terms of consolidation that space, which we have seen over the years. He's got a long career spanning more than 28 years, and he has worked in large brands like Quality Ice Cream, Blue Dart, FedEx, SR, owns Brockway, Thomas Cook, and large companies. And then finally, he took the plunge of entrepreneurship again by bootstrapping his startup almost a decade back, which is known as TravelBullz. And the startup also had a very humble beginnings, and we all can relate to it. At least I can. Like we all started out of our apartment, like a typical in India, you don't have big garages, so we can't really say garage startup. We are all apartment startups in India. And I think he started from that, and then over the decade or so, it's become the largest B2B player in India for outbound tourism to Thailand, Hong Kong, and Macau. Last year, TravelBull served more than 150,000 guests with $23 million in GMV. And it has expanded to Dubai, Indonesia, Maldives, Singapore, and taken the services to more than 6 countries and serving over 69 different nationalities. And today, TravelBull's clients across the globe with more than 15,000 agents that are registered. And TravelBullz has won 15 travel awards in India and overseas. And KDG has also been bestowed with the Entrepreneur of the Year award in 2017 by the Travel Fraternity in India. And in 2020, January, the company also received Best Online B2B Destination Management Company Southeast Asia. And with his mantra of think global but act local, his 85 plus member team with offices across the world, they have been able to really take up this journey and work with all the large brands like MMT, Yatra, Agoda, Ctrip, Alibaba, and Thomas Cook. The vision for 2025, although I don't know, KDG, how this vision is going to be changed in terms of what's happening around us, was to reach over $50 million in GMV. That was the vision which was set for 2025. But more interestingly than this, which I find really amazing about KDG, is his commitment towards social responsibility. So although the company is doing really well and has grown really fast, but that hasn't distracted KDG of his social responsibility. And what he has done is he has mentored a lot of his colleagues to become future leaders, and his mentees are now placed in some of the largest MNCs in the world in senior corporate leadership roles. He has also been supporting Blind Girls School Association in a remote village location in Punjab, where the association has taken responsibilities for 28 to 30 blind girl students for their education, health, and vocational training to make them self-reliant and live with dignity. And some of the girls from this school have also been placed with the association as a teacher, and they are now happily married with kids, and they live a life with dignity. So that's really admirable of you, KDG. To a lot of the times you have seen people in the industry create massive wealth for themselves, but sometimes CSR is more like a buzzword or jazzy word. But you have really acted upon it in spirit and not only in letter of the law. So that's really admirable. So with this, a very warm welcome to you. KD Singh ji on our show, and I'm going to request Ashish ji to welcome you and have a conversation with you. And I will sit back and enjoy my coffee.
Yes. Thank you
Hi,
very much.
Kerry, good to have you today, and I hope you enjoy your coffee.
Likewise, Ashish.
So while we are all bullish, and you are probably more bullish than the other, that's why the name is TravelBullz. How do you see the global industry opening up from here on?
Well, I think the global hospitality or the holiday industry is driven largely by sentiment. So right now, obviously, for obvious reasons, the sentiment is quite low. But as we get more and more news every day, especially for the last couple of weeks, I think every day morning the headlines is about the vaccine and who all are getting when to the market. I think the more positive news, the more we get, I think we will start to see a plan which will start to see people coming back to the travel. However, when you look at the domestic travel, case in point, India, traveling to domestic locations by their own self-driven cars, to hill stations or beach holidays, I think that is already starting to take place, largely on weekends or long weekends. We've also seen in Thailand, the economy has started to come back. However small it's significant when it reflects the future. The entire domestic economy of travel is starting to come back very, very strongly. So Thai people, expatriates living in Thailand have started to travel within Thailand. And that's the same news that we get from all over the world. I mean, you'll see US or Europe, the intra-region traffic has really picked up. So while it is a long journey ahead to recover and come to anything close to what we were doing, probably 19 or 18 numbers, or pre-COVID numbers as we call them, but I think it's largely three aspects which will kind of deliver this. Is one, sentiment, and sentiment is going to come through positive news from the media, and then word of mouth, where more and more people start to travel, and they come back, and people will see that they were safe, they were good, they enjoyed their time. Slowly and gradually it'll start to happen.
Right.
So that's my take. I think 2021 we would see anything between 25 to 40% of the business that we used to do pre-COVID numbers, and 2022 we would be anywhere close to 80 to 100% of what we were.
Yeah.
And then 23 is the real year of growth.
Right.
That's how we see it.
Right. I endorse that to be pretty logical. But talking about Thailand and my own friends, some of them I have, what I've seen over the last many months is what they've conveyed is the discipline for protocol with the Thai people. He says, people don't step out without masks. They don't, it's so perhaps that's helped in many ways to control that Thailand has been one of the least affected of all.
Yeah, I think Thailand always was extremely hygienic. The hygiene standards are very, very high, even in the remotest part of the location you go in Thailand. And I think that and that brings the real Thainess, so to say, to forward. Even every single person in the country is very, very sensitive about being hygienic in general terms as well, not just because of COVID. But I think that, along with the strict enforcement of law by the Thai government, has helped a lot. I mean, though obviously the industry has suffered, especially the hospitality industry, but I think steps were required to keep it under complete lock and control.
Right.
So thank God for that. I mean, at least the domestic business in Thailand is that. We've seen long weekends and weekends, actually hotels of 300 room capacity, 500 room capacity getting sold out. And that is some very good news during COVID times, even if it is on a weekend.
Right. Lots been talked about consumer behavior changes, etc. And I think, Katie, no better person than you to have a chat with, specifically when it comes to group travel, MICE, cruises, because you're in the whole gamut of operations. So let's just deep dive segment-wise, and how do you see the consumer behavior from here on?
I think, as you said, we'll have to do step by step. It's too large a topic to probably have a blanket answer to. When you look at the consumer behavior, I think from the booking pattern, if we will say, we discussed already, how the consumers will start to come back to travel. I consider that if there are economy of travel of 100 people, 20 to 25 of that are people who try, for the first triers. So as soon as borders open, as soon as visa regimes open, as soon as the airlines are able to connect, I mean, you can actually fly to overseas destination, you'll have the 20 to 25% of the total economy of travel people start to really go back to travel. And once they come back and everybody has a happy experience, no untoward incidents are heard, you could see the next 40% taking the plunge. And the last 25% are the one who are conservative, who play very safe, who want to make sure that everybody's got vaccinated and stuff like that. And that's the one who will probably travel in 22. So that's one way of consumer, we follow each other, right? As especially the Asian people, they're very, very clear what is somebody else doing. If my uncle, brother, friend has come back from a holiday from a particular destination and says good things about it, talks about the kind of sanitization or the hygiene standards that that country has taken into from the hotels, from cars, or whatever they experience there, the others will follow. So that's one way of looking at it. The other significant change is last minute bookings. I mean, India was always a last minute market, but more so now, it's going to become even more. And from the bookings that we have seen since since June this year, even in Thai market or China market, they're all going to be D-7, D-10 days in best case scenario. And they used to be D-30, D-40 days, 45 days earlier. So the window of booking versus travel has really shrunk. And I think it's going to remain like this, in the coming 18 to 24 months before it starts to get, again, a bigger window. Because people will get more confident after that to book a long haul flight, right, or much in advance. So that's one significant change. So companies, hotels, hospitality partners, they all have to be ready to get up to be able to service these last minute rush. It's always going to be last minute. So I think that's one key change in the behavior of the consumers. The other thing is when you look at digitization and all these last 10 years in TravelBullz, and before that as well in my earlier assignments, I've been the flag bearer for asking our travel companies, travel agents, partners to go online and move from offline business to online. And it has taken a decade for people to start understanding that, okay, online has higher productivity, you get better pricing, it's seamless, your productivity goes up significantly per person in your company. But this 6 months of COVID has done the work of a decade for bringing people to adapt digitization.
I call COVID the chief transformation officer.
Absolutely.
It helped, what officers haven't done, COVID has done. But go on, Kate. Yeah.
So I think that's one very significant change. When we look at the data in India, if we were to take India into picture for now, we had over 240 million internet mobile users, people who use internet on the mobile. So let's say data packs that they use. It's going to be over 500 million by 23.
Yeah.
Already have over 390 million users in 2019. So 100 million more people, that's 10 crore more people using mobile and using internet on the mobile, not just for calls.
Right.
That's the digitization which has completely changed. And I think we fast forwarded ourselves by at least 5 years, if not more, in adaptation of it. So that in sense will change a lot of buying patterns. That in sense will change a lot of decision-making processes. Historically, you see, especially in countries like India and most of Asia, where we have family system, very strong family system. It is the elders who used to make decisions where to travel, where to buy.
Right.
Today, the youngsters or the teenagers are the people who go into their mobile and tell their dad, hey, buy this and from here. So that is changing. The UN reports tell us that 55% of the total traffic or the total hospitality business will be completely online by 25. So that's a very large chunk. India hasn't seen that kind of, especially in the outbound sector. Airline sector, obviously, domestic airlines has been quite dramatic over the last decade. Significant companies like Make My Trip, Yatra, Clear Trip, they had changed the consumer behavior in a very, very significant way when it came to the domestic airlines. And then the domestic holidays followed, hotel bookings followed. But international had, taken a long time before people were going to OTA standards. Then we're obviously seeing a lot of OTAs investing into India heavily, a lot of, meta search engines, doing a lot of publicity and advertising in India. So yeah, if the travel partners and the DMCs do not really quickly adapt to the digitization process, I think the doomsday is coming sooner or later.
Right. So let's extend that a bit more. Whereas I'm going to ask you about your 5-year plan, but let's extend what you said just now. So do you see ultimately the role of the DMC changing? How do they adapt? Because there is still do-it-yourself, algorithm, artificial intelligence, book your own package, unbundled holidays. And more importantly, I'm not only talking about outbound, but here, look at a scenario in India. There is a very conventional inbound style of DMC management. There's a tour operator outside, there's a tour operator in India. The tour operator in India goes to a sub-agent in Rajasthan who's done the transportation, etc. And if I have to book a shikara on the dull day, do I not see a Uber of shikaras happening? There are 1,000 shikaras there. So how does it apply all over the world?
Well, I think so. Let's
and Katie, I must say I'm not suggesting people will book their own and the travel agents won't have a role, etc. In no way. I'm just saying what happens. What's the impact here?
Ashish, when we look at real data, right? So we've seen when you look at some of the reports by UNWTO or the Statistica and various other sources, India segment still predicts 55% of the business will be packaged business. It will not be unbundled. It will not be individual services. And that's a very large number when you look at India as a country, right? And this is all the way till 25. So another 5 years, we'll still be 55% of the business will be packaged.
Right.
And then I correlate to the evolution of the first-time travelers, because we hardly have any per capita usage of travel, right? When you look at the global average of per capita versus the number of people traveling every 100 or every 1,000 or every million, India is one of the lowest. When you look at China, we are 10 times behind in terms of number of people traveling and the number of trips per person traveling. So that itself, the new market which keeps coming, and I normally tell my colleagues, it is the people who move from a motorcycle to a car. So that's when a motorcycle is like your domestic travel. You go from India to go, within India for travel to Goa, Nainital, Mussoorie,
right,
Rajasthan, etc. And then you start to go to Dubai, Thailand, Singapore, everywhere. That's when you graduate. So that market that is graduating is so huge. And they are the first-time travelers, and they obviously will not go straight away and become individual travelers. They will definitely travel in groups where everything is pre-arranged, everything is taken care of. That's where the role of tour operators come in. So that will remain, but 45% in Indian terms is again a very, very huge number for outbound, if you look at it. Coming back to your inbound business, India has been completely offline, and that foxes me. I don't know why, but the world has moved on, and I think we're still living in the 1947 era, and that will change. I can promise you that will change, not only from the industry level, but even from TravelBullz perspective. We are making a lot of focus and investment into the India domestic and the inbound business. So by, I think, June 21, tour operators sitting anywhere in the world would be able to book a Golden Triangle or a Shikara or a Northeast holiday or a Goa as a package real time on the system without really sending an email. So it'll be completely seamless, both on the customer side as well as on the supply side.
Sure. I was doing a bit of reading and a survey myself that on the inbound, if you look at 3 or 4 competing countries to India on a long haul here being European source market or US source market coming into Thailand or coming into India or, there's Cambodia. the growth of these countries has been associated with being internet bookable. Their growth has really come because these have become internet bookable destination. Whereas, like you said, India is not an internet bookable destination
At all.
for many reasons.
Absolutely.
And I think our inbound operators here need to really think what they haven't been thinking. Because at the end of the day, the consumer is on a high street in UK. His behavior pattern is going to change.
Correct.
And if his behavior pattern changes, he's going to put that pattern onto the retail shop over there, and vice versa. That's how the chain goes.
Absolutely. And you see, it is when we, in this entire chain of value chain, a booker at a travel agency or a tour operator is an extremely important clog in the wheel. And his comfort and his convenience of booking a destination plays a huge role. You can spend millions on your India great campaign, or whatever that you want to market and do advertising with or do road shows, but the booker who's able to make a booking conveniently, convincingly, seamlessly, he's going to promote that destination. So if you walk in as a consumer and say, I don't have a firm destination to go, I want to go on a holiday somewhere in Asia, India will not be on his top of the list. Yeah, so that I think we've done a bit of disservice to ourselves. But I think we don't know. We are not in the shoes of the people who are running this business. So I'm sure they're much more known and intelligent and aware of all this. They must have had their own reasons not to go online. But yeah, we're going to take a crack on that part of the business.
Yeah, I think again, this COVID being the chief transformation officer, the whole domestic market is changing, and I think that would sort of make a base for this internet bookable destination.
Yes, I think if you look at domestic market, Ashish, it's largely been driven through OTAs or direct booking at the hotel. And then it is very, very segregated, very unlike corporate travels, where there are regional or small operators in each of the regions who probably promote a certain 8 or 10 hotels in Goa, 5 hotels in Kerala, 3 hotels in Shimla, stuff like that.
Right.
So, and they've done great work because they have built some real good content, but they've remained regional, they remained focused, but they remained offline. So there's a huge void, if you see, in India for even a domestic, aggregator or a B2B company. There is none, right? I mean, come to think of it, domestic B2B, large-scale national online company, there is none.
No, yeah, that's true.
So that's one big vacuum that we intend to kind of plug in.
So, Katie, if I was to have coffee with you on 5th of December 2025, what would TravelBullz look like?
I think it's not easy to say that, but I'll still stick my neck out because I've always done that, and sometimes taken bricks and bats for that. I will think we will be fully digitized, which means we would not be doing a single transaction offline. 100%. That's my commitment to myself and my team. So that's very clear. This thing. Second, we will be one of the largest marketplace in the world, where we will bring the offline DMC partners and on the other side, offline travel agents to come on a platform and transact seamlessly. So a lot of DMCs, a lot of travel agents, they want to be online, but the issue is not about investment or money, but the issue is how and who will help them to do that. So we'll bridge that gap and bring everybody a very easy to use, very user-friendly platform where buyers will be able to buy and sellers will be able to sell their travel products, and not just be hotels. It'll be packages, it'll be transfers, it could be airlines. So that's where I think 2025 sees TravelBullz to be the largest marketplace in the world, connecting millions of agents to thousands of DMCs and suppliers.
Yeah. So, Katie, when we say travel agents, let's not overlook that in tier 2, 3, 4, 5 cities of India and the reach. There are payment wallets, there is Amazon, there is Paytm, there is a Kirana store, and they all get, they're all getting facilitate for air ticket at least. You still have the transactional air ticket or a hotel to be bookable. I mean, uh, mobile companies have facilitated Kirana to be selling that. I think there is enormous scope here for anybody who digitalizes the holiday DMC space to be able to make it into a Kirana store into Gorakhpur to sell a pilgrimage. It doesn't have to be a holiday into an exotic Alaskan destination, but it could be a reasonably smaller destination. What do you say? I mean, those demographics have to change.
It will change. It does not have to. There is no denying that. I mean, I think anybody who believes it won't change is probably going against the wind.
Hmm.
So what you said is exactly what we think is likely to be. In some way or the other, I think a company called Via a few years back,
Yeah,
took that to
plunge,
people
yes,
who photocopiers, ISD, STD booths, panwalas, and
yes,
kirana stores
yeah,
for airline, and that is where this spread happened. And I think kudos to the team; they did a great job there.
right.
I think holidays, they also tried holidays. It didn't work out for reasons known to them. But I think that is the way forward. Um, with all these wallets and look at the number of connections and number of mobile usage. What will happen, Ashish, in my mind, and that is what we worked on in the last 6 months. It's all going to be voucher driven. So
Hmm.
it's not. It's going to be a package on a voucher which is digitally available for you to sell,
Hmm.
and the consumer will be able to consume and redeem that voucher seamlessly without help of a kirana store.
Yeah,
So the kirana store actually will be a dispensing unit
yeah,
or a dispensing machine, and there'll be many more. There will be banks, there will be people like Flipkart, there will be people like there'll be a lot of associations
no, I
which will
agree.
form, and yes, it'll become off the shelf,
Yeah,
and that's where the growth will come from, whether
yeah,
it's domestic or online.
yeah,
And I think as we go forward, India passport will start to get a lot of on arrival visas.
hmm,
We already have improved a lot over the last 5 years. That's also a very large piece, especially for outbound,
hmm,
when the dispensation of a product becomes off the shelf, where there is nothing required. You don't really need a visa. You just go upon arrival, get a stamp. And that for India passport is obviously getting more and more accepted around the world. That will change a lot for the outbound. Domestic, obviously, it can happen even today. There's nothing stopping it. I think it's just somebody needs to put up the hand and say, we'll do it, and it'll happen.
right. So
That's
I remember when I was CEO for Reliance Retail in 2008-9, and we were trying to put travel into the stores, whether it's Reliance Fresh or Reliance Mart. And of course, people didn't believe it. We thought we were crazy. Or
I
Reliance was
remember.
big.
I remember that with you. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. The
that was
people
a.
thought
I think probably
ahead of
somebody would
its time.
go ahead of your time.
It was ahead.
You
And
did.
that's exactly, KD. It was barcoded. You could walk in and you
Yeah.
could, just like any other grocery, you would barcode it and pop will come a prepackaged thing. And what we said to ourselves, and here's the final statement on that: whatever service we barcode and put, even if it's an air ticket, has to be what we call an idiot proof. Even an
Right.
idiot should be able to sell
Correct.
it,
Correct.
so to say. So
Absolutely.
I think that's demystification would have to eventually happen, and I hope TravelBullz will be ready for that.
Well, we've already launched. We've not launched, but we've already developed a voucher module on our system already, where not only just holidays can be dispensed, but even other hospitality products like spas, like fine dining, like restaurant coupons. You could really buy. It's a very good mix of what you do at in fine dining, in Zomato, and in the online spa available, and the vouchers, discount vouchers, all of that is still going to be available as soon as the system goes back to normal in terms of people
Yeah.
start to travel again. So that module is already ready. It is tested. We have a supplier app which can just scan the voucher and you don't need to do anything.
Mm.
So you could, for example, if you are booking a holiday for your customer, he's going to Bangkok, he wants to dine at Lebua, there will be already preset appointment that you will have requested for on the system, and the manager in any of the hotels or any of the restaurants that you would have picked would confirm that appointment, and if you were there at that time, you will have a reserved table. So you could reserve your table in advance, traveling in any part of the world.
Sure.
So those kind of things are already there. It's just a matter of time now. The rollout process will obviously will time it along with the industry going back to normal.
So I read this also a very hard-hitting article about you on credits and industry. What's that? Let's conclude with that.
Well, I think especially in B2B and a bit of corporate, I would say, customers have taken, the agents have taken DMCs or B2B suppliers or hotels as banks. Or somewhere, I would even stick my neck that they use them as revenue generation, companies, because once the service is given and you've given a credit, you don't pay for it; it directly goes to your P&L, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So uh, uh, obviously, you can't paint the entire industry with the same brush. That'll be unfair. But there is a lot of gray area when it comes to the credit. And I think DMCs and B2B companies and whosoever provides credit, so openly, has to blame themselves for it, because I think the only USP they have is credit and not the product or the service, so to say. So I would say the industry hasn't learned from many mistakes that it did before. It's unlikely to learn now.
Yeah.
Yes, the credit squeeze will happen, and it will not happen because agents don't want to take credit or DMCs don't want to give credit. It is because the credit squeeze is going to happen right at the end of the primary source. So hotels, airlines, sightseeing companies are not going to extend the kind of credit they used to extend. So it'll obviously flow down because the cash flow will get squeezed across the entire value chain. Having said that, you look at Dubai and Maldives destination open from India, and you see the kind of undercutting happening in the market already at B2B level. So, so I don't think industry is going to learn from its past mistakes. I would suggest, and I'll really request most of, there are a huge amount of companies which really pay on time, and they're really, really nice customers. They've always maintained their credibility. Those are the ones one should support, but the rest of the companies, it should be cash and carry. In B2B, companies cannot be with the kind of wafer thin margins continue to bank or provide credit, or most of the huge big companies really had to shut down, not because they didn't have business, but because they gave credit at the wrong time, wrong place, and unlimited. So that's where the credit.
Katie, if there's one discussion I'll conclude I've heard maximum in the travel industry since I joined in 1979 is this credit discussion. Ad nauseum about, it's becoming a tool for competition, or somebody who hasn't paid, one customer switching on to another travel agent and you getting a sign off from the other to say, so, but like you said, we haven't learned from our mistake. We haven't learned it in 41 years. I hope we learn fast enough.
Because, well, I wish, but I know for sure, come back, the normal business, the practice of credit will remain. It will get curtailed to a large extent. There is no denying that. But I think when it'll come, when pull comes to shove, it'll, that'll be the only trump card people will have to go back and acquire market share by saying, I'll give you credit.
Right.
And I think at TravelBullz, we took a very conscious decision 2 years back. We've had our own learnings, right, over the last decade, especially with people who were known to us, because you don't give credit to, right? So we've had our own experience. So 2 years back, we decided enough is enough. So thankfully, and that has in 2020, pandemic has really, really helped us a lot, where most of our credit was either secured through a bank guarantee or a floating deposit, or the credit exposure to the agents was quite less. Yes, the payments are delayed, we know, but it's still secured. We know the money will come in because it's large corporations or something like that. So yeah, I would suggest and really request the industry captains to follow a common code of prepay, because agents obviously charge their customers upfront, right? So there is no need for that credit. When the customer is paying upfront to a retail agency, the retail agency should pay up to the customer. What I also think, Ashish, is that we need to bring new economic tools and the payment patterns to the industry, where we are currently working on a project. If that sees the that comes true, then we will be able to give an alternate where agents will still be able to make a payment real time so agents will be able to still get the credit, but the DMCs and the service providers will get the money real time.
Right.
No, which is what I think, if you would know that you would have also been part of that project where, you used credit card companies between the corporate and the TMCs to, kind of
the chargebacks and
yeah, absolutely. So I think some of the innovative tools will have to come into play to satisfy both sides.
Yeah.
Where agents can still continue to get their credit that they need to run their businesses, and DMCs or the B2B partners or hotels or suppliers of hospitality services are able to secure their money real time.
Yeah.
I think it's the day is not too far.
Yeah. I visualize a microfinance kind of a pipeline where you build in the cost of capital at each point. And if your margins can afford to pay for that cost of financing, build it in, but pay the other guy.
Correct. It'll be shared between the buyer and the supplier.
Correct.
I think a very good example would be that we've been using something called virtual credit card for the last 8 years now to pay our suppliers. So that kind of gives you, a typical window of cash flow. And the same time, the security to the supplier is very much there. They know that the money is going to come.
Good.
So I think a similar concept will have to go to the downstream where an agent and DMC can interact through a VCC and payments are made securely without really have to bother. And the cost of transaction is not that high. It's not like a credit card of anything between 2 or 3%. So that helps a lot.
Right. So Katie, it's been a pleasure having you today on Coffee, and I'll ask Karthik if he has something to conclude. But I sincerely do hope we won't be meeting on 5th of January 2025, but earlier.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I think the vaccine is going to be here in 21 first quarter, right? So
and
hopefully the same quarter will be a much.
Keep being bullish, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Ashish.
All right. Been pleasure having you. Over to you, Karthik, if you have something to.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I think because a lot of our viewers are also young entrepreneurs and startups and MSMEs. So I think if you could just give a message for them, because many of them are sort of a bit heartbroken and they don't know where to go for advice and solace. So if you want to just give your 2-line advice to all these young entrepreneurs.
Well, I think my only advice is, guys, this is like what I've been told by my parents, and I think generations down we've heard. If the good days don't remain, the bad days won't remain too. Right? There is always light at the end of the tunnel. 2020 is already gone, right? So we've all, howsoever we have survived 2021, keep your head low, keep your costs low, stay focused on what you're doing. Don't try and, do things in desperation. I've seen a lot of people trying to do things desperately. Yes, whatever you need to do to survive for, 2021, especially in the hospitality industry, is fine. But keep your long-term goals in the picture and trust yourself. Things will come back to normal. I mean, travel is not going to go away from this industry. It's going to only grow. So have faith and keep your focus. Keep your head down for 2021. Keep your costs low as much as possible for entrepreneurs who run their own businesses. For employees, people who are employed, we know that you all have gone through a very, very torrid time. And believe me, it is not with you, but with everybody around the world, especially in the hospitality sector. Again, whatever you need to do for the short term to survive, whether you're doing a part-time job, whether you're taking a call center job, whatever it needs, don't shy in doing any job. It's all right, to earn and put your food on table, to meet your expenses. And after that, we are back to where we were. So just get through the first half of 21, and the rest of the story is going to be as rosy as it was earlier. So we're going to go back to our fam trips and our parties and our celebrations no later than end of 21. That's my prediction. God bless you all.
I think, so to summarize, trust and believe in yourself, keep your costs low, and don't act out of desperation. So I think that's
absolutely
golden words of wisdom from KD Singh ji. With this, we are at end of today's session. Thank you so much, KD ji, for being with us. And thanks, Ashish, as always. And thank you all our audience who have joined in from across India. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again, KD.
Thank you very much, Ashish and Karthik.
Pleasure.
God bless you.
God bless you.